Welcome back. So we're working with int values today. And so as you can see right now, we still have the screen up where we have the Math.random's range of 0 up to, but not including 1, because it's a double value is what it gets back from this. But in order to actually work with Math.random, we have to be able to cast that information back to an int so we can actually work with it. Otherwise, we're just going to get a value of 0 all the time. And so I've got a great example of that right here. If we don't cast our Math.random appropriately, if we just cast the result of Math.random, we're going to get a fabulous 0. 0 up to and including 0. That's all it is. And that's not really random. In fact, it's quite boring. So instead, we have to make sure we properly cast the information we're working with Math.random. And so we have to cast the value on that so we can actually get a value out of this. And a proper cast of this, we'll just say, for example, right here, with a Math.random times 10. Notice that I'm using the parens around both the Math.random times 10 multiplication, that arithmetic sequence we're working with, and then I cast that result to the int. Otherwise, I'm just going to get a big fat 0 every single time because the order operation works in Mathland just like it does in Java land. And so we have to make sure we cast the result after we do all of our arithmetic before we actually do any of the work with that. And so we have to make sure we do that. We can't simply assign a value of Math.random to an int because that will give us a compile time error because we're losing information. That double value just doesn't fit inside an int variable. So you have to make sure we properly get that inside there. And so that's what we're going to be working with as we do this. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at our code for this. We're using the int.math.random. Expand that out. And so as you can see right here, we have int fantastic 0 of int math.random. That's what we were just seeing earlier before. If I just cast the result, it's just going to cast that to a 0. Additionally, we'll get a 0 if we don't do the parens around the arithmetic, like I was just saying with that example on Math.random times 10. Right here, that another 0 is going to be another fantastic 0 of 0 because I'm saying, hey, Math.random times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll do that math. And it's like, oh, I'm going to say, that's wonderful, but the casting on there is going directly from the int onto the Math.random. That's all that's being cast is just that single result, and that immediately goes to 0 because 0.999999 whatever is just going to be 0. And 0 times everything, that's right, it's 0. So we can't actually use that right there. And so we have a couple system.prints for that to go over along with that. And then we have the Math.random of Math.random times 10. We were using a visual example again before, and that random value is this. And then I'll say random value, we're going to reassign that and we'll do a different scalar. And so this is the idea of scaling along the value range. And this is how we expand or contract what we're working with is we do a scalar on this. And the scalar is the value that we multiply when we're working on this. This is how we grow and shrink the number line we're working with. And so multiplication is going to expand that line, division will shrink the line, and the larger the value you use gives you the bigger range of values you can actually work with when you're working inside that. And if you divide by a large number, of course, you'll shrink that because you get a fractional value. Whatever. But the larger value never includes 1, though, because we're never that square bracket there. The parens around the 1 that we saw in that original video, parens right here on the 1 says it's never included. So we can never actually include the 1. So we'll never get that value 10. We'll never get the 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll never actually get that number as a result because it's not inclusive. It's an exclusive value on 1. So it never goes up to that actual value. It goes almost up to that, but it'll never include that. And then we have the idea of shifting on that. We can see that shift right here, that addition right here and subtraction of plus or minus 2 on that. We can see that right here with Math.random on this one, on a number line example. And so we have our number line example right here. So Math.random times 10 minus 2 gives us a range from -2 inclusive up to 7 on that. And so up to including 7, that's the value of range we have. Because again, Math.random is 0 to 9 right there we have with this original one down here at the bottom. And then we're going to say, hey, take that range of 0 to 9 and shift it back 2. So 0 minus 2, -2, 9 minus 7 is 7. And so that's the range that we're going to take that range and we're going to shift it back. And that's what the idea of the scalar and shift on that is what that does. We can also have a shift on that to make it go forward. We have an example right there with Math.random on 6 plus 1, aka we're going to make a die. And so we're going to make a die with that. We have our int value of Math.random times 6 plus 1. And so we have up to 1 is where we start off with, up to and including 6. And so I have 6 values in there, which originally is 0 to 5, but then we're going to shift it up to 1 to 6. Is how we can make that happen. And that's what we're going to be working with on this. Let's go ahead and run the code and go over those visuals again really quick. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at the code that we have going on for this right now. So we can see right now I'm in my start method of my controller class where I do all of my code for my demos. And in my start method, I have use random with int values, the method I'm calling for that. And you can see I've got my int fantastic 0 is an int passing at math. I take int math.random and int another 0. I do math.random times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we can see what the results are of not properly casting the results when we're doing this. And that has just a couple quick system.println statements to go over that. Then we have our int random value is an int math.random times 10, and I'll pick out the value of random value, display that to the screen. Then I'll reassign that value, multiply it with a different scalar of 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we'll say, hey, we'll take that scalar instead of a multiplication scalar, we'll do a division scalar. And then we'll say, hey, let's take that scalar of 6 this time and add 1 to it so we can see what would happen if we were modeling the idea of a 6-sided die. And finally, for example, we'll say, hey, it's Math.random times 10 minus 2. We'll take that same example of a scalar and a shift, but instead of going forward down the number line, we'll go backward down the number line. And that's what we're going to take a look at, so you can see what happens as we actually run through this code. So here we can see that we have right now. So we can see that we've got the fantastic 0, 0, and the value in another 0 is also 0. And then with our first result right here of Math.random times 10, we get the 4. And then we do multiply by 1, 2, 3, 4, and we get 337. And we divide by 20. Math.random by that and divide by 20, we get 0. Yeah, that's what I was expecting, but hey, we'll try it out. And then we have the idea of Math.random times 6 plus 1 is 3, and we'll try it again, Math.random times 10 minus 2, and we'll assign that is also, again, 3. We can totally get duplicates when we're working with this. I run the same sequence again one more time. Let's get different values. 0, 0, 1, 286, 0, 3, 4. Different values, again, because we're running this value on this. It's like, hey, the values of the first two are always guaranteed to be 0 because of miscast logic on that. Then we have 1 for that for range between 0 up to but not including 10. Up to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, we have 286 this time. Divided by 20, still get 0 because, again, division shrinkens range. And then we have 3 and 4 then for our different values on that. And I'll keep running this until we can get a negative number. Boom, boom. Hey, there we go. -1 for our value of random value. And so we can get different values for this every single time as we run through this. And so when we're working with this, we have the idea that we're going to be working with these values and how to make that happen. And again, we have to take about the key things we have in mind when we're working with Math.random and an int. We have to do proper casting, and the casting right here, move my cursor to the right spot. So the casting right here is with the parens around the keyword int. So we cast that, we drop off the decimal information. And we have to make sure we do the cast of the entire arithmetic operation. So in this case right here, it's Math.random times 10. In this case, it's Math.random times 1, 2, 3, 4. In this case, it's Math.random times 6 and then plus 1. And the plus 1 can happen after that because that arithmetic doesn't affect the scale. And it's okay to shift it this way or that way afterward. But we want to make sure we do the proper casting and we do this. The scalar is the multiplication that we're working with. We can scale with division, but it doesn't do any good for us when we're working with ints. It's great on doubles, but right now, no big deal. And the scaling plus moves right down the number line. If we're scaling negative, we move left down the number line. We go to smaller values. And that's how we can actually work with giving a random value. We can do something a lot and very helpful with this. Great way to practice working with Math.random. Try different values for your scalars and your shifts. And you can use this all the time inside your computer science courses to work with Java and getting random values. I hope this is helpful. Cheers. See you next time. Take a look at the next videos we're working with inside this series and have a good day. Bye-bye.